tonight, you are not here to chase, to force, or to figure everything out. You are here to remember that what you seek is not outside of you, not distant, not delayed, but already waiting within your own wonderful human imagination. And as you settle in now, you may begin to feel a quiet curiosity rising. What if the life you desire begins to change? Not tomorrow, not someday, but here, in the soft, unseen world you enter before sleep. This meditation is your gentle doorway inward, a sacred moment to loosen the day, quiet the surface mind, and prepare your deeper self to receive a new story, a truer story, a kinder story, a story in which you are no longer trying to become, but allowing yourself to be. And if you wish to return here with me night after night, you may choose to subscribe and leave your intention in the comments so your desire is spoken, witnessed, and set into motion. For now, there is nothing you need to prove, nothing you need to solve, only this moment, this breath, this feeling of being held by the night. You are safe here, you are guided here, and somewhere beneath the noise, beneath the effort, beneath the habits of doubt, a deeper part of you already knows the way. Tonight, we begin there. Now gently bring your attention to your breath, not to change it all at once, only to notice it softly, kindly as it is. And as you notice it, allow it to deepen just a little. Breathe in slowly for a count of 5, holding for 5, and exhale for 5. Easy, unforced, like a tide moving in and out beneath moonlight. Again, inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold, and exhale, letting the body begin to understand that it is safe to soften. With each breath, imagine your heart becoming the quiet center of your awareness. Not your thoughts, not the noise of the day, but the warm, living space in the center of your chest. Breathe as though the breath is moving in and out through the heart itself. Gentle, steady, luminous. And as you do, you may begin to sense a soft glow there, a tender golden light, or perhaps a calm white radiance beginning as a small point and then slowly widening, expanding, filling the chest with warmth. This light does not need effort. It responds to your attention. The more gently you rest with it, the more naturally it grows. With every inhale, it brightens. With every exhale, it spreads into the shoulders, down the arms, up through the throat, across the face, like peace taking shape inside you. And as this glowing presence expands, the mind begins to follow the rhythm of the heart. Like ripples settling on a still lake, there's a quiet harmony forming now between what you feel and what you think, between the body and the deeper intelligence within you. When the heart is calm, the mind no longer needs to race. When the breath is steady, the inner world becomes easier to enter. This is how you prepare the soil of consciousness, not by force, but by coherence, by giving your inner being one clear message. I am safe. I am open. I am ready. So breathe again into that center, slowly, lovingly, and feel the light growing more whole, more soothing, more alive. Let it wrap around every restless thought without resistance. Let it soften every sharp edge of the day. You are not trying to make something happen. You are simply becoming available to peace. And peace, once welcomed, knows exactly how to guide you deeper. And now, let your awareness rise gently to the top of your head, as if a soft wave of comfort is touching you there. The scalp relaxes, the forehead smooths, and the space between the eyebrows opens and softens. There is nothing to hold together now. The eyes rest deeply in their sockets, the tiny muscles around them letting go. Your cheeks soften, your jaw unclenches, your tongue rests easily, and even the inside of your mouth becomes still. Every part of your face receives the quiet message that the day is over, and you no longer need to brace yourself. Let that softness move down into the neck, the front of the throat, the sides, the back of the neck, unwinding, releasing, opening. Your shoulders begin to drop as though a weight you did not even realize you were carrying is finally being set down. And as the shoulders melt, that feeling flows down through the arms, upper arms, elbows, forearms, wrists, hands, palms, and fingers. Each finger loosens into stillness. Each hand becomes warm, heavy, and at peace. It is safe to let go here, safe to rest, safe to stop holding. Now bring your attention to the chest. Relaxed, open, easy, rising and falling without effort. The heart is calm in its glowing rhythm. The upper back softens the shoulder blades, loosening as though they are floating on warmth. Let that relaxation spread through the rib cage, through the center of the body, and into the stomach. The belly softens completely. No gripping, no guarding, no tension. Just softness. Just breath. Just the deep comfort of not needing to control this moment. Your body understands what to do. Your body knows how to rest. Feel the lower back releasing now. The muscles along the spine unwinding one by one as though a gentle hand is smoothing away every last trace of strain. The hips grow heavy. The pelvis relaxes. The whole center of you sinks more deeply into support. You are held by the surface beneath you. You do not need to carry yourself. You are being carried. And now the relaxation travels down into the thighs, the fronts of the thighs, the backs, the inner thighs, all softening, all growing pleasantly heavy. The knees release, the calves loosen, the shins soften, the ankles unlock, the feet relax completely. Heels, arches, soles, toes. Every small place that has carried you through the day, now finally allowed to be still. And as the toes soften, it is as though the entire body exhales at once. From head to toe, you are surrounded by ease. From head to toe, you are safe in this moment. If there is any remaining tension anywhere in the body, you do not need to fight it. Just notice it, and let warmth move there. Let softness move there. Let your awareness say gently, you may rest now. You may let go now. And the more you notice the body, the more peaceful it becomes. The more peaceful it becomes, the more deeply you settle, as if you are being wrapped in quiet, covered in calm, lowered into a soft, invisible stillness where nothing is demanded of you. Only comfort, only surrender, only this sweet and simple permission to rest. And now, with the body so much softer, you can begin to release the need to manage every thought, every outcome, every unanswered question. You do not have to hold the whole world together tonight. You do not have to force clarity. You do not have to make peace arrive. You only have to allow yourself to step back and let yourself be carried by something deeper, quieter, wiser than the restless mind. Imagine just ahead of you a gentle doorway appearing in the darkness. Simple, peaceful, welcoming. Beyond it is a space with no pressure, no urgency, no unfinished demand. A calm, limitless place where you are free from effort, free from performance, free from the old habit of trying to control what is already unfolding in unseen ways. And as you move toward this doorway, You may feel a lightness in you, as though the weight of needing to know, needing to fix, needing to predict, is slowly dissolving. Step through now, softly, easily, and enter this vast inner stillness. Here, everything is quiet. The air feels warm and safe. The silence is not empty. It is full of peace, full of permission, full of trust. Nothing is chasing you here. Nothing is missing here. You are simply resting in a place beyond struggle where life does not need to be forced to reveal itself. If thoughts drift in, let them drift. If the mind wanders, let it wander for a moment. There is no failure in that. There is no need to correct yourself harshly. Each time you notice you have drifted, you can return gently, kindly, as though guiding a child back to rest. No pressure, no judgment, just a soft return to stillness again and again. And in this surrender, something beautiful begins to happen. What was tight begins to open. What was noisy begins to quiet. What felt distant begins to feel near. You stop gripping the shore, and you discover you were always floating. You stop demanding answers, and you begin to feel the intelligence of peace surrounding you from within. So let go a little more now. Let the night hold what you no longer need to carry. Let the unknown become a place of safety rather than fear. Let yourself rest inside trust, even without having every reason, every proof, every plan. For this moment is not asking you to understand everything. It is only asking you to soften enough to receive. Now you may begin to notice that your mind is becoming quieter in a different way. Softer than ordinary waking, looser than the busy thinking of the day. You are not falling away from yourself. You are drifting closer into that gentle threshold where the conscious mind relaxes and the deeper mind opens. This is the natural gateway, the calm descent into alpha, the deeper softening toward theta, where imagination becomes more vivid, more receptive, more alive. And as you drift here, you remain completely safe, completely held. There is nothing strange to fear in this softness. This is a familiar inner ocean, one you enter every night. Only now you enter it with awareness, with ease, with quiet willingness. In this gentle state, old noise can fade, and new possibilities can feel closer than before. Not forced, not chased, simply welcomed. You are open now, relaxed now, ready now, and now you are resting at the edge of something new, quiet, open, and deeply receptive. The body is softened, the breath is calm, the mind is no longer resisting. You do not need to go anywhere from here. You only remain available, gently aware, peacefully surrendered. In this stillness, the deeper self begins to listen more clearly. A new impression can now be received without effort, without noise, without strain. And as you drift further into this peaceful inner night, you are ready to welcome what your soul has always been prepared to remember. What makes topic real is not the abstract definition, but the moment it enters ordinary life and begins shaping outcomes for actual people. We understand it more clearly when we stop treating it as a distant concept and start looking at where it appears, how it operates, and what it leaves behind. In concrete reality, topic is not just an idea to be debated. It becomes a force that alters decisions, relationships, access, risk, and opportunity. One of the clearest ways to see this is through a specific case. In this example, describe the case briefly, where it happened, who was involved, and what triggered it. At first, The situation may have seemed isolated, local, or explainable through simple causes. But as the details come into view, a larger pattern begins to emerge. What happened was not random. It reflected the deeper structure of topic in action. Look closely at the sequence. First, initial condition, then key event or turning point. After that, response, consequence, or escalation. Each stage reveals something important. The first shows the conditions that allow topic to take root. The second shows how it becomes visible. The third shows who pays the price, who benefits, and which institutions or beliefs help sustain it. This is where the example becomes more than a story. It becomes evidence. The people involved are not just characters in a narrative. They are witnesses to how topic actually works under pressure. Their experience gives the issue weight. Their outcomes turn theory into something measurable. You can see it in lost time, damaged trust, financial cost, emotional strain, public reaction, policy failure, or cultural silence, whatever form is most relevant to the topic itself. And often the most revealing part is not only the event, but the response around it. Who was believed and who was ignored? Who had the power to define what happened? Which explanation became dominant, and why these questions matter? Because topic rarely operates alone. It is usually reinforced by habits of interpretation, by unequal power, by institutional convenience, or by narratives that make harmful patterns look normal. That is why a strong example does two things at once. It confirms part of the framework we already have, but it also complicates it. It may show that topic is not simply caused by one bad actor, one bad decision, or one dramatic moment. Instead, it may grow through a chain of smaller choices, quiet permissions, delayed responses, and normalized assumptions. What appears obvious in hindsight may have been nearly invisible in real time to the people living through it. This is precisely why examples matter. They force us to confront the difference between explanation and lived experience. On paper, topic may look clean and understandable. In reality, it is often messy, layered, and unevenly distributed. Some people encounter it directly. Others benefit from not having to notice it. Some are harmed immediately. Others are harmed slowly through accumulated pressure that rarely makes headlines, but steadily reshapes their lives. So this first example gives us something essential. It gives us texture. It shows us the environment in which topic becomes possible, the mechanisms through which it operates, and the human consequences that follow. It reminds us that analysis has to stay close to reality. Otherwise, we risk describing the issue in a way that is technically correct, but emotionally empty. And once you see topic at this level, through concrete events, visible stakes, and lived outcomes, it becomes much harder to dismiss it as exaggerated, isolated, or irrelevant. The example does not merely illustrate the issue. It reveals its structure. It shows us what topic looks like when it stops being a concept and starts becoming a condition of life. A second example makes the pattern harder to dismiss because it shows that topic does not depend on one place, one group, or one unusual set of circumstances. It appears again, but under different conditions. The setting changes. The people change. The pressures may even look different on the surface. And yet, the underlying logic remains recognizable. In this case, imagine a different environment. Describe contrasting context, region, institution, or community. The actors may not speak the same language, hold the same resources, or face the same history as in the first example. Their constraints may be sharper or less visible. Their choices may be shaped by different rules. But when the situation unfolds, we begin to see familiar signals. There is the same uneven distribution of consequence, the same gap between official explanation and lived reality, the same tendency for topic to hide behind what appears normal, practical, or unavoidable. That contrast is what gives the comparison power. The first example may have allowed someone to say, "This happened because of that particular place, that specific institution, or those individual failures." But the second example weakens that defense. It shows that the issue travels. It adapts. It takes different forms while preserving the same basic structure. What changes is the appearance. What remains is the pattern, and this helps us separate coincidence from design accident, from tendency. When two different contexts produce related outcomes, we are no longer looking at a single event. We are looking at a broader reality. The comparison teaches us that topic is not confined to one dramatic case. It is embedded in systems, expectations, incentives, and blind spots that can survive even when the surrounding details are completely different. So as we place these two examples side by side, the deeper insight becomes clearer. We are not just collecting stories, we are identifying repetition with variation. And that is often where serious understanding begins. What these examples mean when we step back from their surface details is that topic is not best understood as a series of isolated incidents. The deeper connection lies in the pattern beneath them. Different settings, different people, and different immediate causes still lead us back to the same structural logic. That tells us we are not simply observing separate events. We are observing a recurring way in which reality is organized. What repeats is not always the exact behavior, but the relationship between power perception and consequence. In each case, certain people are expected to absorb the burden. Certain explanations are treated as more legitimate than others, and certain outcomes are accepted as normal, even when they are clearly harmful. That repetition matters because it reveals that topic is not random. It is sustained by deeper assumptions, incentives, and forms of permission. This is why examples alone are not enough unless we interpret them. Without interpretation, people can look at the evidence and still reduce it to bad luck, individual failure, or an unfortunate exception. But once we name the pattern, the meaning changes. We begin to see that topic is not only about what happened, it is about what keeps becoming possible, what keeps being overlooked, and what social or institutional logic allows it to return. And that is the real insight here. Topic reveals a gap between how systems describe themselves and how they often function in lived experience. It shows that what appears neutral may not be neutral. What appears accidental may in fact be predictable. And what appears exceptional may actually be common once we learn how to recognize it. So the point is not simply that these examples are troubling. It is that together, they expose the nature of the issue itself. They tell us where to look beneath the surface, what questions to ask, and why shallow readings fail. Once we see the pattern clearly, we are no longer just reacting to events. We are understanding the structure that produces them. This matters because topic does not stay inside theory. It shapes daily life, public judgment, institutional behavior, and the choices people make without always realizing why. Once you understand the issue more accurately, you begin to see its effects not only in major events, but in routines, assumptions, policies, and relationships. On a personal level, this changes how you interpret what people experience. It becomes harder to dismiss harm as oversensitivity, failure as purely individual, or inequality as a natural outcome. You start asking better questions. Who had access? Who carried the risk? Who was expected to adapt in silence? That shift in attention matters because clearer understanding leads to more honest judgment. On a social level, the stakes are even wider. Topic influences what institutions reward, what communities normalize, and what forms of suffering remain invisible. It affects not only those directly targeted or burdened, but also those who inherit the consequences through weakened trust, distorted priorities, and damaged public life. Even people who seem far from the issue are still living inside systems shaped by it. That is why this is not merely an academic discussion. A better understanding of topic can change how we listen, how we respond, and what we accept as normal. It can affect policy education, leadership media narratives, and everyday interactions. And for you, it can change the difference between passively repeating a shallow explanation and actively recognizing the deeper reality underneath it. So the practical relevance is clear. When people understand topic with more precision, they make better sense of the world around them. They become less vulnerable to false narratives, less likely to confuse appearance with truth, and more capable of seeing the human cost hidden inside abstract language. That is why this matters, not only because it is important, but because it is already part of the world you move through every day. The strongest reframing may be this: topic is not only about the visible event, the public controversy, or the immediate harm. It is about what the issue reveals beneath the surface, about the kind of system culture or moral logic that makes those outcomes possible in the first place. That shift matters because once we understand topic at that level, responsibility can no longer be pushed entirely onto individuals, and shallow explanations begin to collapse. Too often, the easiest narrative is the smallest one. People point to one person, one mistake, one bad decision, one dramatic moment. That kind of explanation feels satisfying because it is simple. But simplicity can hide reality. It can turn structural problems into personal failures, repeated patterns into isolated exceptions, and long-term conditions into short-term accidents. A shallow narrative does not only misunderstand the issue, it protects the conditions that allow it to continue. A deeper understanding asks a more demanding question. Not just what happened, but what made this outcome thinkable, repeatable, and acceptable. That is where topic becomes more than a subject. It becomes a mirror. It reveals what a society rewards, what it excuses, what it refuses to see, and whose reality it is willing to minimize in order to preserve comfort or order. And this changes the meaning of responsibility. Responsibility is no longer limited to the person closest to the event. It extends outward to institutions that normalize the pattern, to narratives that disguise it, to audiences that consume simplified versions of it, and to all of us when we prefer convenient explanations over difficult truth. That does not erase individual accountability. It places it in a larger field where consequences are produced, distributed, and often defended collectively. This is why a better understanding of topic also changes perspective. You do not only ask who is at fault, you ask what worldview is being reinforced. You do not only ask what went wrong, you ask what had already been made normal long before the visible failure appeared. That is, the deeper pattern. If this perspective is expanding how you see the issue, subscribe and comment. I see the deeper pattern, because in the end, the real importance of topic is not simply that it exists. It is that it exposes the limits of easy narratives. It forces us to see that truth is often larger than the story first presented to us. And once we see that we are no longer interpreting the issue at the surface, we are confronting what it reveals about identity, responsibility, and the kind of world we are helping sustain. Going forward, the most important skill is learning what to notice. Topic rarely announces itself in a pure or obvious form. More often it appears through signals, through repeated language, patterned behavior, selective attention, and outcomes that are explained away as natural when they are anything but. So one thing to watch is repetition. When the same kind of harm, exclusion, distortion, or justification keeps appearing across different settings, that is not background noise. That is a pattern asking to be recognized. You can look for what remains stable even when the people, places, or details change. Often that tells you more than the official explanation ever will. You can also look for gaps. Gaps between stated values and actual outcomes, between public language and private incentives, between who is praised and who is burdened. Those gaps are often more revealing than direct claims. Systems may describe themselves in fair, neutral, or rational terms, but their true logic is often visible in who absorbs the cost when pressure increases. Another signal is normalization. Pay attention when something harmful is described as ordinary, inevitable, exaggerated, or too complicated to address. That kind of language often does important protective work. It trains people not to investigate further. It turns structure into atmosphere so that what should be questioned begins to feel permanent. And just as important, learn what can mislead you. A dramatic case may attract attention, but not every dramatic case reveals the deeper pattern clearly. Sometimes the quieter examples are more instructive. Sometimes the most meaningful sign is not the loudest event, but the repeated minimization that follows it. That is why critical thinking here requires patience. You are not only looking for incidents, you are looking for structure. So the practical lens is this: watch for repetition, watch for gaps, watch for normalization, and watch for who carries the consequences. Those signals will help you identify topic more clearly in the future. And once you know how to see those signals, it becomes much harder to mistake the pattern for coincidence. Now we can feel what part 2 has given us. We began with examples that made topic concrete, then widened the frame until a larger pattern came into view. What first looked like separate cases became connected evidence. What seemed local became structural. What felt incidental revealed a deeper logic. And that matters because we are no longer looking at topic as a loose collection of events. We are seeing it as a pattern of meaning, consequence, and interpretation. We are seeing how it operates, how it hides, how it repeats, and why it continues to matter far beyond the moment in which it first appears. That shift in understanding prepares us for the final step. Because once we know what topic is really showing us, the next question is no longer just how to describe it. The next question is what follows from it, what consequences it creates, what lessons it demands, and what broader perspective it forces us to adopt. So we carry this forward with a clearer lens now. We have moved from example to pattern, from pattern to meaning, and from meaning to responsibility. And with that foundation in place, Part 3 can take us into the larger reflection, not only what topic is, but what it ultimately asks of the people and systems shaped by it. At first, it may have seemed easy to name this issue, file it away, and feel that the work of understanding was done. A simple story is always attractive. It gives us clear villains, clear victims, clear causes, and clear conclusions. It offers emotional closure before genuine understanding has had time to form. But that kind of closure is often purchased at the cost of truth. And truth, when the subject actually matters, is rarely flat enough to fit inside a slogan. So now we let that surface story fall away. We let go of the version that survives only because it is convenient. We let go of the version that depends on selective memory, emotional exaggeration, or the comfort of moral simplicity. We let go of the interpretation that sounds decisive only because it leaves too much out. What remains, if we are careful, is not confusion. What remains is a stronger way of seeing, because this topic was never only about the loudest claim made about it. It was never only about the most shareable example, the most dramatic incident, or the most emotionally satisfying conclusion. It was always larger than that. It was built from context, incentives, history, trade-offs, perception, and consequence. And once those layers come into view, the shallow narrative begins to feel less like insight and more like a shortcut. That is the shift we keep. We no longer need to see this as a neatly packaged story with one obvious meaning. We can see it instead as something shaped by multiple forces at once. We can see that the visible outcome is often only the final expression of deeper conditions. We can see that what looks sudden may have been building for a long time. We can see that what is commonly framed as isolated may actually be structural. And we can see that what feels morally simple may become more demanding the moment we ask better questions. This matters because shallow interpretations do more than misdescribe reality. They train bad judgment. They teach us to react before we understand, to sort before we investigate, to conclude before we connect. They make us feel informed while leaving the real mechanisms untouched. That is why we do not hold on to them. Instead, we keep the deeper framework. We keep the awareness that evidence must be weighed, not merely collected. We keep the awareness that examples are meaningful only when placed in proportion. We keep the awareness that motive systems and consequences interact in ways that cannot be reduced to one emotional headline. We keep the awareness that a strong interpretation does not merely explain what happened. It explains why it happened, what made it possible, and what follows if nothing changes. So what should now be understood differently? First, that the common story was incomplete, not only because it missed details, but because it often missed structure. It focused on the visible moment and ignored the environment that produced it. It highlighted reaction and neglected pattern. It preferred immediacy over depth. That is why it felt clear. And that is also why it could not carry the full weight of the truth. Second, that distortion does not always arrive in the form of an obvious lie. More often, it arrives through framing, through emphasis, through omission, through emotional selection, through the steady habit of telling only the part of the story that supports the conclusion already desired. Once you recognize that, you stop asking only whether a claim contains facts. You begin asking whether the facts are being arranged in a way that clarifies reality or conceals it. Third, that real understanding usually demands more patience than opinion culture allows. It asks us to stay with contradiction longer. It asks us to hold evidence that does not perfectly align. It asks us to resist the hunger for instant certainty. This is not weakness. It is discipline. It is how serious thinking protects itself from manipulation. And so we arrive at a calmer position, not a colder position, not a detached or indifferent one, a calmer one, a more grounded one, a position from which the topic can be seen with less distortion and more proportion. We do not lose moral seriousness by becoming more precise. We gain it. Because seriousness without clarity becomes performance. But seriousness with clarity becomes judgment. That is what remains after the layers are peeled back, not the noise, not the easiest label, not the most flattering interpretation of our prior assumptions. What remains is a deeper recognition. This issue means more than it first appeared to mean connects, to more than it first appeared to connect to, and asks more of our attention than the surface narrative ever admitted. So we release the simpler story and we keep the stronger one. We keep the one that survives scrutiny, the one that makes sense of both evidence and context, the one that does not depend on outrage to stay persuasive, the one that remains standing even after convenience partisanship and emotional shorthand are removed. And from here forward, you no longer need to look at this topic as a finished argument with a ready-made conclusion. You can look at it as a living pattern of causes, choices, consequences, and interpretations. That is a more demanding view, but it is also a more truthful one. And in the end, that is the understanding worth carrying with you. When we step back far enough, the separate pieces begin to stop looking separate. The background is no longer just background. The evidence is no longer a pile of disconnected facts. The examples are no longer isolated illustrations. The counter-arguments are no longer interruptions to the main point. Each part starts to reveal the others. Each detail gains meaning from the larger pattern around it. And what seemed fragmented at first begins to settle into a coherent picture. That coherence matters because misunderstanding usually does not come from a total lack of information. More often it comes from information held in fragments. A person may know one event, but not its context. They may know one statistic, but not its limits. They may recognize one moral concern, but fail to see the system that gives rise to it. In that state, judgment becomes unstable, not because there is nothing to think with, but because the pieces have not yet been connected. And this topic demands connection. Its history matters because present outcomes do not appear from nowhere. Its incentives matter because people and institutions respond to pressures, rewards, fears, and habits. Its public narrative matters because perception shapes response just as powerfully as reality does. Its exceptions matter because they test whether the larger explanation is strong enough to hold. Its consequences matter because ideas are never only ideas once they begin directing action. So the larger view is not an optional layer added on top of the issue. It is the condition for seeing the issue properly at all. Once that becomes clear, a deeper pattern emerges. We begin to see that the topic is not merely about one case, one decision, one actor, or one moment. It belongs to a broader system of cause and effect. It reflects recurring tensions between appearance and structure, between immediate reaction and long-term consequence, between individual responsibility and institutional design, between what is visible and what is actually driving events beneath the surface. This is why fragmented understanding is so costly. It leads people to overreact to symptoms and overlook mechanisms. It encourages confidence without comprehension. It makes strong opinions feel earned before serious synthesis has taken place. And when that happens, even intelligent people can misread what matters most, simply because they are looking at the right pieces in the wrong order. But when the pieces are brought together, judgment changes. The examples become more than examples. They become evidence of pattern. The objections become more than resistance. They become part of the test that refines the argument. The broader relevance becomes impossible to ignore because the issue now reveals itself as one expression of a larger way the world works. And that may be the most important realization. Here, clarity does not come from reducing complexity until it disappears. It comes from organizing complexity until it makes sense. That is the power of coherence. It does not flatten reality. It aligns it. It allows us to see how background evidence interpretation and consequence move together. And once we see that clearly, we are less vulnerable to the distortions that thrive on isolation, simplification, and emotional immediacy. So the bigger picture is not merely bigger. It is truer. Because it shows that this topic is not a loose collection of claims, but a connected structure of meaning. And once that structure is seen, we are no longer just reacting to the issue. We are finally understanding it. What gives a conclusion its strength is not the absence of uncertainty, but the right relationship to it. So here we make room for what remains unresolved. Not to weaken the argument, and not to retreat into vagueness, but to stay faithful to the difference between what is strongly supported and what is still emerging. That distinction matters. Without it, confidence becomes performance. With it, confidence becomes credible. Some parts of this topic can be stated with clarity because the evidence is substantial, repeated, and consistent. Patterns can be identified. Consequences can be traced. Certain explanations hold up better than others. But there are also edges where the picture becomes less complete, where interpretation outruns proof, where competing explanations still deserve to be examined, or where the available evidence points in a direction without yet closing every question. That is not a flaw in serious thinking. It is one of its marks. Because intellectual honesty does not require us to pretend that everything is uncertain, and it does not allow us to pretend that nothing is. It asks for proportion. It asks us to say this much is solid, this much is likely, this much is still debated, and this much should not yet be spoken of as settled fact. That kind of precision may feel less dramatic than absolute certainty, but it is far more trustworthy. And in a subject like this, trust matters. Not the trust created by forceful tone or polished conclusions, but the trust created when an argument shows its boundaries clearly, when it does not hide complexity to preserve momentum, when it does not inflate a partial truth into a total one, when it resists the temptation to convert ambiguity into spectacle. That restraint is not hesitation. It is discipline. We should also be careful not to confuse complexity with confusion. Complexity means that multiple forces may be acting at once. It means causes may interact. It means outcomes may contain contradictions. It means a serious explanation may need layers. But none of that prevents understanding. In fact, it is often the shallow refusal of complexity that produces the most confusion. because it leaves us with explanations too weak to carry reality. So we end this part with a quieter kind of certainty, not the certainty that every question has been answered, but the certainty that the issue can be approached honestly. That strong evidence should be treated as strong. That incomplete evidence should be treated as incomplete. That nuance is not surrender. And that clarity becomes more durable, not less, when it is honest about what it cannot fully claim. That is how an argument earns the right to last beyond the moment. What should remain after everything else fades is not just a collection of facts, but a set of anchor ideas strong enough to hold your understanding steady. The first is, this reality is rarely distorted most by outright falsehood. More often, it is distorted by reduction, by taking something layered and presenting it as simple, by taking something systemic and presenting it as isolated, by taking something cumulative and presenting it as sudden. That is why one of the most important habits you can carry forward is the habit of asking what has been left out. Not only what is being said, but what had to be ignored for that version to feel complete. The second anchor is that evidence by itself does not think. It must be interpreted. An interpretation is never neutral just because it uses facts. Facts can illuminate, but they can also be arranged, framed, and selected in ways that narrow rather than expand understanding. So the real task is not merely to collect information. It is to learn how evidence, context, proportion, and consequence belong together. Only then does information become insight. The third is that consequences do not begin at the point where people finally notice them. By the time an outcome becomes visible, many of its conditions have often been present for much longer. This is one of the deepest sources of public misunderstanding. We tend to react to the moment of appearance as if it were the moment of creation. But what appears suddenly may have been structured slowly. What feels abrupt may actually be the final stage of something long ignored. To understand well, we have to train ourselves to look beneath the event and into the pattern that made the event possible. The fourth anchor is that fragmented knowledge can be dangerous precisely because it feels sufficient. A person who knows a little may feel they know enough. A person who has one compelling example may mistake it for the whole. A person who has a moral reaction may confuse intensity with depth, but understanding matures when separate elements are brought into relationship. Background changes meaning, counter-arguments sharpen precision, broader relevance reveals hidden stakes. It is in the connection between parts, not the loudness of any one part, that judgment becomes reliable. The fifth is that intellectual honesty is not a decorative virtue. It is part of the structure of truthfulness itself. When we distinguish between what is well established and what remains unresolved, we are not weakening the argument. We are making it durable. When we admit complexity, we are not abandoning clarity. We are protecting it from collapse. When we resist exaggerated certainty, we are not becoming passive. We are refusing to let confidence outrun evidence. That discipline matters because it separates serious understanding from persuasive performance. And the sixth, perhaps the most lasting of all, is that how we interpret a subject shapes what we become capable of seeing next. A shallow interpretation does not simply misread one issue. It trains the mind toward future shallowness. A careful interpretation does not simply clarify one topic. It strengthens the capacity for future clarity. In that sense, Every subject teaches beyond itself. Every act of serious attention becomes a rehearsal for better judgment elsewhere. So if these ideas are to remain, let them remain in language simple enough to carry. Look for structure, not just incident. Look for pattern, not just reaction. Ask what is missing, not just what is stated. Separate confidence from proof. Treat complexity as a sign to think more carefully, not less. And remember that understanding is not the same as information. Understanding is information arranged into meaning. You do not need to leave with a dramatic conclusion. You need to leave with a stable one. You do not need the comfort of a perfectly closed argument. You need a framework strong enough to remain useful when new evidence appears, when new examples emerge, when public emotion shifts, or when the issue returns in a different form. That is what a true takeaway does. It does not merely summarize what was said. It gives you a way to see. So, hold on to this. Above all, the relationship between evidence interpretation and consequence is where the deepest meaning lives. Evidence shows what can be known. Interpretation decides what that knowledge means. Consequence reveals what follows when that meaning is accepted, distorted, ignored, or acted upon. If you keep those three in view together, you are far less likely to be misled by noise, seduced by simplicity, or satisfied by conclusions that have not earned their certainty. And maybe that is the most elegant lesson here. Not that the topic is impossible to understand, but that it becomes understandable only when we stop demanding that truth arrive in its easiest form. That is the anchor, not simplicity at all costs, but clarity with depth. Not certainty without limits, but confidence with honesty. Not reaction without reflection, but judgment shaped by connection. Carry that with you. And the subject does not end when this discussion ends. It continues to work inside your thinking more quietly, but more powerfully. We return now to the question that opened all of this, but we do not return to it as the same viewer who first encountered it. At the beginning, the issue may have seemed to ask for a position, a verdict, a quick sorting of what to believe, what to reject, what to condemn, or what to defend. But after moving through its layers, that original question appears differently. Not smaller, but deeper. Not easier, but more honest. Because the real challenge was never simply to decide what side of the issue to stand on. The real challenge was to understand what kind of issue it actually was, and that difference changes everything. When a subject is misunderstood, the damage does not stop at wrong conclusions. Misunderstanding reshapes attention. It teaches people where not to look. It rewards speed over patience, certainty over proportion, reaction over reflection. It narrows the field of vision until only the most emotionally useful elements remain. In that narrowed field, people can feel informed while becoming less capable of judgment. They can become more expressive and less perceptive at the same time. That is one of the quiet dangers behind any issue that becomes public, politicized, simplified, or symbolically overloaded. The louder it becomes, the easier it is to lose the thing itself. But understanding has a different effect. Understanding widens attention. It restores depth to what was flattened. It returns sequence to what was treated as isolated. It reveals how consequences emerge from conditions, how narratives shape perception, how systems distribute pressures, and how interpretations become actions once enough people accept them as reality. To understand something in this fuller way is not merely to know more about it. It is to be changed in how one sees. And that change matters because it outlasts the topic itself. This is why the issue before us should not be carried forward as a headline in memory. It should be carried forward as a way of thinking that pauses before reducing, a way of thinking that asks what produced the visible result, a way of thinking that notices when an emotionally satisfying explanation is doing too much work with too little truth, a way of thinking that remains firm without becoming rigid, nuanced without becoming evasive, serious without becoming theatrical. That is the deeper consequence of this kind of inquiry. It teaches us that understanding is a responsibility, not just an accomplishment, because the way we understand important issues does not remain contained within private thought. It influences institutions, conversations, loyalties, fears, priorities, and public action. The cost of shallow interpretation is not only intellectual, it is social, it is moral, it is practical. A distorted understanding of reality eventually produces distorted responses to reality, and those responses, repeated often enough, become part of the world others must live inside. So the stakes were never merely academic. They were always about what follows when people mistake immediacy for insight, when they mistake a compelling frame for a complete one, when they accept the first intelligible narrative rather than doing the harder work of testing whether it truly explains what it claims to explain. That is how confusion hardens into consensus. That is how noise becomes common sense. That is how serious issues get buried under interpretations too weak to hold them. And yet the opposite is also true. When an issue is understood with depth, proportion, and honesty, something stabilizing enters the conversation. It becomes harder to manipulate, harder to oversimplify, harder to weaponize through selective emphasis. A clearer understanding does not solve every problem on its own, but it changes the ground on which problems are approached. It gives people a stronger basis for judgment, and judgment in the long run shapes outcomes more than outrage ever will. That is why this matters beyond the immediate subject, because every issue of real importance becomes eventually a test of whether we are capable of seeing more than what is easiest to see, whether we can distinguish visibility from significance, whether we can resist emotional convenience long enough to form durable understanding, whether we can carry complexity without collapsing into cynicism or retreating into slogans. These are not minor intellectual habits. They are part of what allows a society, a community, or even an individual conscience to remain anchored in reality. And reality is often less dramatic than reaction, but more consequential. It moves beneath surfaces. It accumulates before it announces itself. It links forces that public conversation often treats as unrelated. It waits to be noticed properly. And when it is not noticed properly, it does not disappear. It continues working underneath, shaping events until its consequences become too large to ignore. By then, the cost of misunderstanding has usually grown. So perhaps the lasting reflection is this: the issue mattered from the beginning, but it matters differently now because we can see it differently now. What once looked like a single question has revealed itself as part of a larger pattern. What once looked like a conclusion has revealed itself as an interpretation that needed testing. What once looked like clarity has revealed itself in some places as compression. And what may have felt complex at first has become more coherent precisely because we stopped trying to force it into a smaller frame than it deserved. That is not the end of thinking. It is the beginning of better thinking, because no important subject remains frozen. New evidence appears, context shifts, public language changes, consequences unfold, And so understanding must remain active, not unstable, but alive, not endlessly uncertain, but genuinely responsive to truth. The viewer who leaves with that mindset leaves with something more valuable than a conclusion alone. They leave with a discipline of attention, a discipline that says, look again, look beneath the immediate claim, look behind the persuasive summary, look for the structure underneath the event, look for the incentives underneath the language, look for the pattern underneath the exception, look for the consequence underneath the interpretation. This is where reflection becomes lasting impact. Not in the temporary satisfaction of feeling that the matter has been settled once and for all, but in the quieter realization that you now possess a stronger lens through which to meet what comes next. That lens does not eliminate disagreement. It does not remove complexity. It does not guarantee comfort. But it does make one thing far less likely: that you will confuse the loudest version of reality with the truest one, and that in an age of constant framing may be one of the most important forms of clarity a person can develop, because to misunderstand an issue is to risk becoming governed by appearances, but to understand it more deeply is to regain a measure of freedom. Freedom from ready-made narratives, freedom from emotional choreography, freedom from the pressure to adopt certainty before one has earned it, freedom to think in a way that is slower, cleaner, and harder to manipulate. That freedom is not passive. It is a form of responsibility. It asks more of us. It asks us not only what we believe, but how we arrived there. Not only what evidence we accept, but how we interpret evidence. Not only what seems urgent, but what is actually important. And when enough people ask those questions with seriousness, the quality of public understanding changes. The conversation changes. The available choices change. Even the future in small but real ways changes. So we close not with the illusion that every ambiguity has been dissolved, but with something more useful, a clearer relationship to the truth that can be known, the limits that should be respected, and the patterns that should no longer be ignored. We began with a question. We end with a sharpened way of carrying it, and maybe that is the most lasting consequence of all. Not that the issue has been reduced to a perfect summary, but that you are no longer dependent on one. You can now meet it with more context, more patience, more resistance to distortion, and more readiness to see the forces that simpler stories leave out. That is what it means to move from information to understanding. That is what it means to move from reaction to judgment. That is what it means to let a serious subject do more than pass through your attention. It changes the standard by which you will measure the next one. If this helped you see the issue more clearly, subscribe and share, so others can think about it more deeply too. And so we leave this subject not with a final burst of certainty, but with a quieter understanding of why it matters. It matters because what we misunderstand, we eventually mishandle. It matters because the difference between reaction and reflection is never just personal. It shapes the tone of discourse, the quality of judgment, and the seriousness with which reality is met. And it matters because some issues are not asking to be consumed quickly. They are asking to be seen clearly. So let this not end as noise. Let it remain as a question, worth carrying, a pattern, worth noticing, a standard worth applying again. Not only here, but in the next subject that arrives wrapped in urgency, simplicity, and pressure to decide before thinking is complete. We do not need to react to everything at once. We need to learn what deserves deeper attention. And if you want to continue that kind of inquiry, there are other ideas, other questions, and other subjects waiting to be explored with the same care. You may continue with another video, another line of thought, another layer of the larger picture. Subscribe for more thoughtful deep dives. And above all, leave this one with a mind that stays open long enough for truth to become clearer